Over the last few years, a lot of coffee roasting equipment has hit the market, and one that's drawn the attention of both professionals and home roasters alike is the ROEST, which is a product of a small startup based in Norway, who set out to build the best sample roaster in the industry on a challenge from coffee legends Tim Wendelboe and Morten Wernskard. Now, that challenge was issued back in 2013, and with 2023 just a few short months away, if my calculations are correct, that's almost 10 years old, and over that time it's gotten a lot of accolades and industry professionals' praises, so when the opportunity arose to try it for myself, I couldn't turn it down. Designed and built with ease and efficiency in mind, the ROEST boasts a fully automatic roasting experience from start to finish, as well as a robust manual option with all the control you'd expect from a professionally designed unit. Of course, this all sounds great, and we could sit here and ooh and ah at the features list, but what really matters is that real-world experience, and that is where I come in. And I think that manufacturers understand that. They understand where I'm coming from, so when ROEST reached out and asked if I'd be interested in trying out their L100P for a few months, and agreed to my terms of no previews or edits, I happily agreed. But before we focus down on the details of the ROEST, sometimes you just want specialty coffee without the effort. And that's where today's sponsor comes in, COMETEER Coffee. These unassuming and fully recyclable capsules are chock full of coffee goodness. As a barista and just all-around coffee lover, COMETEER is my go-to for those lazy or busy mornings when I just want a simply tasty cup of coffee without the whole production. COMETEER takes care of the hard part for you, brewing each coffee at its peak flavor and then flash frozen to seal it in. Then, when the feeling strikes for some tasty coffee, I just simply thaw a sealed frozen capsule under hot water and pour over milk for a quick and easy iced latte. Literally the most difficult part about COMETEER is choosing which coffee you're going to make, because each order comes with a variety of coffees from well-established roasters and curated to your personal tastes. So for a limited time you can get $20 off your first 2 orders. That's a $40 savings when you use my code at cometeer.com. Personally, I've kept my freezer stocked with COMETEER since I first tried it about 2 years ago, and I wouldn't promote something I don't actually enjoy myself. So if you're COMETEER curious, now's a great time to give it a try. Don't let its no-frills, Scandinavian design fool you. There's a lot going on with the ROEST, so let's give it a quick overview. Once you've got your exhaust hooked up, the Wi-Fi antenna attached, and the machine plugged in, flip the power switch and the little cube comes to life. On its face, you'll notice a few of its main components. On the far left is the bean drop handle, and this serves as a trigger for heating and cooling. If it's open, the machine will cool down, and if it's closed, it will begin warming up. And this whole process generally takes just a few minutes, but the temperature depends on your chosen profile. Next to the drop handle, and much like roasters I'm familiar with, there's a sight glass that looks into the roasting chamber, as well as a small trier for those who partake in the act of sniffing hot bean. Up top you've got the hopper where you stage your green coffee, and that sits next to a small slide that lifts and releases, or as we roasters say, charges the roaster's drum with coffee beans. On the opposite corner sits the dial that's used for selecting and adjusting the roast settings on the screen, which is the main control hub for the ROEST. Tapping the time section brings you to the main menu, which has profiles, roast settings, machine setup, the chaff collector reset, and Wi-Fi options. On the bottom left is the removable cooling tray that has a separate fan for cooling and roasting simultaneously. And finally, on the bottom right of the roaster's face, there's a latch that contains a chaff collector that simply pulls out for a quick and easy cleaning. Now that we've got a basic familiarity with the roaster's hardware and function, let's get a bit deeper into its workflow and performance. With the ROEST, there's 2 ways you can approach roasting. Either using an automatic, preloaded, downloaded, or user-created profile, or get more hands-on with the manual mode. For automatic roasting, just tap the roast time section on the main screen, then profiles, then select one of the 5 options saved on the machine, which can be updated or changed via the roaster web portal. From there, it's just waiting for the charge temp to be reached, drop the green in, and the rest is done automatically. And just so there's no confusion, when I say the rest is done automatically, I mean everything. This includes heat, airflow, first crack, and dropping the batch into the cooling tray. Yes, you heard that correct. I said first crack. On the L100 Plus, its first crack detection will hear and mark each and every individual pop, and even log them onto your profile as little orange columns. And you can even set the threshold of pops for beginning the development time countdown. Also, I found the auto roasts pretty consistent back to back using the same coffee and batch size. But those of you looking for a more hands-on roasting experience, don't you worry. You can try your luck at the manual roasting mode. This starts by setting your waiting or charge temperature, or by starting an auto profile and switching into manual mode by just adjusting the roast settings. All of which are changed by tapping which setting you'd like on the screen, and then using the dial on top to adjust its value. Now, I should say that the manual roasting mode is pretty tricky. Unlike the automatic profiles that maintain the roasts with near constant adjustments up and down, the manual option requires a high level of focus, and resigning the fact that getting your profile to look exactly how you want it is much harder. In my experience, small batches are very difficult to control, and with a max batch of 120 grams, a 1% change in power for a second too long can be the difference between a consistent decline or a crash. That said, over the last couple of months of having the roast, I haven't nailed it down, and found myself having more success only making small changes manually when I see an auto profile going off the rails, and as it recovers, immediately swapping back to auto roasting by selecting the profile again. The profiling itself is done through their web portal, and it gives you a lot of the data you'd expect from modern roasting software, including the ability to compare profiles, save, and share them. Of course, I should mention the sound. Without beans, the roast hums along at a relatively quiet 60 decibels. At mid-roast, it only jumps about 2 to 3 decibels, which isn't all that bad, even in a small room. Now that we've basically covered almost everything, I think it's time to talk about how it actually roasts, meaning the amount and the quality. In terms of the amount, based on my roasts, you can easily produce 700 grams an hour. In terms of the quality of cups it produces, I've got no complaints. All the coffees I've roasted, regardless of their origin and profile, have been consistent, even and most importantly, brewed and cupped well on my bar. As always, it can't just be sunshine and lollipops, so here are a few quirks and downsides to know about the roast. To start, I found the process of getting it set up to my Wi-Fi just a little overcomplicated, as it requires a step-by-step how-to and a middleman software download to connect to the roaster. Also, relying on Wi-Fi seems a little risky, in terms of reliability, consistency, and widespread usability. It seems like a big miss not to have a plug-and-play option directly into your computer, and also utilizing an application that can be used offline for those interested in tracking profiles and taking full advantage of the roaster, and may not have consistent or even any Wi-Fi. And finally, the biggest obstacle the roast faces in widespread adoptability is its price tag. Coming in at just over $6,000 for the basic model and $7,650 for the full package option I used in this video, it's going to be a hard sell for most small-scale and home roasters. Learning to roast coffee is a process that even just a few short years ago was pretty mysterious and more or less kept behind closed doors. But lately, more and more products keep coming out that are removing those barriers. And the roast really does a great job at making it simple with automatic options, while also providing the tools to learn and explore with a manual mode. Having personally used a handful of the most popular small-scale and sample roasters, like the Ikawa, the 1kg Mill City, and the Bullet, it's no stretch to say the roast is capable of producing coffee quality comparable to them. But when compared on their price to batch size ratio, the roast can be kind of hard to justify. Granted, it can go back-to-back much faster than my Bullet, takes up far less room, produces way less smoke, and requires little to no experience to run. So in the end, like all things, it comes down to what you're looking for and what you want to achieve with roasting. But to me, all of this, the automatic roasting, small batch size, and price tag, mean the roast is truly a professional quality assurance tool, and isn't all that focused on the home market. Of course, you can still get one for your home, your office, or wherever you please, and it will treat you well, but that price tag is a high bar for entry. And with all that said, I think it's time I wrap this one up and pass the conversation on to you. What are your thoughts on the roast? What are your thoughts on home roasters? What are your thoughts on using professional roasters at home? And if you own a roast, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, especially on long-term reliability, because that's not something I can test in just a few months, but they do ship it with extra parts, and that's kind of a nice touch. So drop your answer to those questions and any others you may have in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications of new videos posted every Friday. Check out my Instagram at Sprometheus for content throughout the week, my blog at Sprometheus.com, my coffee at littlegiant.coffee, and as always, stay caffeinated. Ponyboy.